I don't know. You tell us.
I don't know there, Zab, Mr. Programmer.
Yeah, what? Wolf.
Hello everyone. Why is it still playing? Let's test to see if we've got everything working all right here. Looking good. Now let's see. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Let's test to see if I'm coming through. This is going to get double feedback. Why is it still playing? Okay, got it. That's good. Hi everybody, it's Matt Johnson here from SRS, and this evening we're going to be talking about the SRS DPS League. This is probably really only applicable to members of SRS, but hopefully people who are thinking of joining the fleet in Star Trek Online will see this and think it's a good idea, and it might prompt them to join us. If you want to join us, just look us up on the website, just Google SRS Fleet, it'll take you straight to us, and then you can join easily. So the live stream today is basically about the DPS League. Now, a lot of you will be familiar with the official DPS League, which is started by Spencer and Sarcasm Detector and a few others. And that's been absolutely brilliant over the last few years. And thanks to those guys, they made the amazing combatlog parser, which is what we all use. It's an absolutely essential tool, and without this tool, I really don't know what we'd be doing. We'd just be playing story missions and having a laugh, or maybe playing a different game. It really does make that much difference. So we'll come back to that in a little while. However, the problem with the official SRS DPS League is that they generally really have two leagues that they're interested in space, which is ISE and HSE. That's Infected the Conduit Elite and Hive Onslaught Space Elite. And they also do not take into account any kind of builds. So if you go into the DPS League now, you'll see that the top, I think I looked yesterday, I got down to 25 before I got bored, and every one of them, that's going from like 2.4 million DPS in ISE down to about 1 million DPS. That's about 25 people. They're all torque boats, which tells you that torque boats is the best build for ISE. But anyone can spend time and a bit of money and build up a ship to do very well in a singular scenario. The SRS League is rather different. As I've put here on the intro, it's quite simply the most detailed and encompassing DPS League in STO. There's 13 different build types that you're measured on, over 16 different log systems. So our DPS League determines which players are the true masters of STO, not just experts at doing organised nanny runs on ISE, but players who could do well on every build type in many different scenarios. So with that in mind, over the last few years, I've been building the DPS League, which is available for all members of any SRS fleet to take part in at any time. There's no cost, of course, it's completely free, and everybody is welcome, and it's a fantastic way to help you improve your build. Even if you don't aspire to being top of the league, if you just want to do a little bit better, I mean, a typical story is someone will come and join us and they'll have 5 or 10,000 DPS on ISE or on a different map. Within a couple of months, they're up to 100k, and within 6 months they're up to 300 or 400k. I've seen it many times, and some of them turn out to be some of the best players in the game. All they needed was a bit of education and how to make the builds, to understand build synergy, and then of course a lot of practice. So that's one of the things that the DPS League can do for you. So I've got a little introduction here. I've just done that bit there, how it differs from the so-called official DPS League. Now the main part is to show you guys how to find the DPS League on the website and what it does. So I'm going to move that over there. And what we'll look at here is we'll go to the website. So if you just go to srs-fleet.net, the DPS League is a subsection of the MRP system, which is our mission replay points system. That's our system that we have designed for awarding points. These are nothing to do with DPS now. This is just basically points based on your performance in many different categories over the year. And depending on if you come in the top 10, top 20, you get some pretty decent prizes. For example, this year, the prizes for winning are a billion EC, and right down to 15th place, 10 million EC, 15th place. There's also a draw for those top 15 to get 500 million EC, and there's also another draw for those top 15 to win a tier 6 starship coupon worth 3,000 Zen. And finally, there'll be another draw for those 15 people to win a lobby ship of your choice. So by getting in the top 15 of the MRP, you've got a really good chance of winning something nice. You're guaranteed to win something, but you might win more than one thing. So DPS will help you with that, but it's not the be all and end all for winning prizes. In the DPS League, though, it is. So if you go to the MRP menu and choose SRS DPS Leagues, depending on the speed of your computer, you will see this screen load up. Let me just close this combat log. There we go. Now there's a huge amount of information here. It pulls data from over 100 people in 16 systems with 13 different leagues. So if you multiply all that together, that's quite a lot of data, and there are also an extra 26 spreadsheets that it pulls data from as well. So it can be a little bit slow sometimes, depending on the speed of your computer. You're also going to want a decent sized monitor. My monitor that I work on is a 21 by 9, but most people's monitors are 16 by 9. A 21 by 9 is like the cinema scale, and the 16 by 9 is your typical sort of laptop or television size. What you might find is on some smaller monitors is that you have to adjust the magnification. It says that here. Adjust your magnification to 80%. That's just a guess. It might be a bit less, it might be a bit more for you. But to do that, it's simple. You can either go up here to the top right of Chrome, and then there's a zoom level here, or you can press your control key and move your mouse wheel. That will do the same thing. Once you're magnified, it will then rescale it to fit. So let's have a look at what we've got here. First of all, we have the captain's name. So if you click on this drop down here, you will find everybody that's in the league. If you want to find a specific person, you can just type @ and then let's say Ken, for example, and that'll bring up Kenobi. We'll go back to mine. So this is going to show you the results from this captain, and it will also show you the results from this captain in this league, which is the EPG League, the Exotic Particle Generator League. So basically science stuff, all your gravwells and very cold in space and other anomalies, things like that. But as you can see, we've got other leagues here, beam overload, drain, and so on. We'll come to that in a little bit. So you choose the league that you're interested in. Say, for example, Cannon Scatter Volley, and it will then update all the data on the sheet. On the first graph here, we see the average DPS for this captain. And on the white column, we see the average DPS for the league. In the next column, we've got some information that covers all build types, all events. So in this case, the max hit, average to max hit, how many logged events you've done. Now these are DPS League events. You may well have done many more MRP events, but they're not counted here. It's only the ones that are actually loggable that are counted here. Your average threat, your average healing, your max ever DPS, what's your chance of dying. So that basically adds up how many deaths you've had and divides it by the amount of events that you've done. Your average crit, a confidence level. That basically means that the more data that the sheet has got for your account, the more confident we can be that your predictions, the prediction below is correct. And the prediction below is that you will survive. If you die a lot, then you might see some other message there like, high death risk. Or if you get really, really high, it'll start making a few sarcastic comments. Then you've got your DPS League rank, number 1 for me there, and how many points that is. And then you have the Hall of Fame badge. So I'll come back to that shortly. Let's look at the ranking. So on the left-hand side, this is the overall DPS League ranks. You've got the captain, the position, and the current score. Now, if I choose somebody else, you'll see that my name is highlighted there. If I choose Sab, you'll see that it highlights Sab's name. So you can always find your name very easily in the list. And you can scroll down here like this. Just scroll to the side. Scroll in the middle as well, or scroll at the side. Well, one thing, don't even try and open this on a mobile phone. You are not going to see anything. It'll be much too small. Right, so if we then look at, we'll stick on Zabs because he's got a few things I need to show here. If we then move to this area, we've got the average DPS in all leagues. So that is your average DPS over everything that you've ever logged. And that's important if you want to get into one of the elite fleets. So let me just show you what that means. So on the fleets, we have 3 elite fleets. SRS Vash, which is the elite fleet for Romulans, SRS Mako Spec Ops, and SRS Section 47. And you can tell they're elite fleets because they've got the hyphens either side of the SRS. So if we go to the elite fleet register here, you can see whether or not you're eligible for an invite. So if we look at this person here, they are eligible, they've qualified for MSO and Zartvash and for Section 47. So the reason your average DPS is important, oh not that one, it's this one, is in order to get into those fleets, you need to average 100,000 DPS minimum to get into the 2 lower elite fleets, at least 10 logged DPS League events as well, and a rank of Admiral 1 star. To get into the top fleet, Section 47, you need to average 200,000 DPS, 20 logged events, and the same rank, Admiral 1 star. And the reason you might want to get into those fleets is because there's some quite nice rewards. Not least that you can take up to 13 million EC per week out of the bank. Completely free of charge. Just go in, take the 13 million. I encourage everyone to make use of that. So let's go back here. So that's what your average is here. As you can see, Zab is well above the average for even the top fleet. And as you might expect, he is actually a member. And this side refers to the league that we're looking at. And if you can tell at the top, it says builds in infected the conduit league. So on the right hand side, you can see that we've got the system, select system, and it's the top 100 people in that system. It goes right down to 100 there. And in this league for ISE, Zaba's got all these builds, but he doesn't have cannon rapid fire, mix, or drain. So he knows that he needs to get those builds in that league if he wants to improve his score. Because for each one that you get in there, so if we look at his torque boat here, that puts him in 7th place. That gives him 94 points. The points add up to this score on this side. So if we go back to mine again, you see I've got every build in ISE, every build that's possible. So I've got as many points as I can get. The only way I can improve my score now in ISE is to beat these scores that I've already got. So for example, to get more points, I'd have to improve my surgical strikes, which I got 427. So I'd have to get more than that. Say if I got it up to 500, then that would put me here, and it would knock all these down one, but it would give me this many more points, 9 more points. Now, there's a lot of systems. If you click in this drop down box here, you can see the different systems that we do our DPS runs on. Another popular one is Trouble Over Tear. This is a great one for EPG. EPG is really, really powerful when you've got a lot of groups of ships coming in wave after wave after wave. As you can see, I got a very, very high score, 1.9 million, back on the 21st of January last year. I've not been able to come anywhere close to that. About 1.3 is maybe 1.5 on a really good run now. And the reason for that is that a lot of the stuff that I used to use has been completely nerfed into the ground. For example, neutronic eddies on that particular build was 250k. Now you're lucky if you see 25k. So when they nerf stuff like that, there's some other things as well they nerfed. Obviously it drops your DPS down, but we don't remove the logs. The logs stay there because the nature of power creep is that in time there'll be other consoles, there'll be other starship traits and so on that will allow you to catch back up, and I would hopefully exceed that, get into the 2 million maybe sometime later this year. So we'll keep these here. The only time we'd ever remove anything is if it was utterly game breaking and produce some crazy scores, like there was something once in Hive that used to produce like 400 million DPS. I forget what it was now. There's some videos on YouTube of it. But of course, if that was logged, that would have to be removed. But we don't clear the whole log. We just remove the logs that contain that particular problem. Now, going down a little bit, we've got another graph here. We're still looking at the Cannon Scatter Volley League here. And it tells you the top 10 players in that league. Let's choose EPG because there's more people in that one. I think everybody's got an EPG build. Yeah, well, top 10 anyway. So here we see the players 1 to 10 and what their average DPS is in that league. Going down a bit further, it breaks it down further for the particular captain that you're looking at, which is usually yourself, but you might be looking to see what you've got to do to beat somebody else, or what their stats are like. So this one's for me again. So that's the max ever DPS I've got. This is my average DPS, average max hit, my average crit, 61. So crit is something that you really want to get as high as possible, especially if you can get good crit severity as well. 61's pretty good. But you will see some players that are pulling 80, 90 crit, even 100, almost 100% crit. The problem with that is they tend to be only good for nanny runs where they've got dedicated tanks, dedicated support ships. You fly a ship like that in any normal teamed map, and you probably are going to be a glass cannon, I would think. Average threat. This is something you want to reduce if you are. Well, it's two things here. First of all, if you want to stay alive, you want to reduce your threat, especially if there's no tank on the team. If you've got a tank on the team, then your threat should be negligible because the tank will pull it all if it's a good tank. On the other hand, when you're doing MRP events, threat does count very highly towards your score. So getting a good threat level on an MRP event will increase your MRP score, but obviously it also increases the chance of you dying. So for DPS League stuff, keep your threat as low as you can. For MRP things like mission replays, put your threat up as much as possible. But again, if you die too much in MRP events, you're also going to lose points. So it's a balance. Your average healing out is more important on support tanks. Chance of death, 22%. So yeah, not brilliant on that particular ship. I'm better on other ships. And your average damage that you do, 111 million is a lot of average damage. And to see how that stacks up with the averages in the league, this is the data from everybody in the league against yourself. So the white is the league and the red is the player that you're looking at. I must state as well that these are logarithmic scales. So for those that don't know what that means, it means that it doesn't go up linearly. So you can see here it starts off at 100, 1,000, 10,000, so on, right up to 100 million. That's so that you can have small results like this one here in single figures, and large results like this one in 9 figures, and still keep them on the same graph. If you had the linear scale, well, the only thing you'd see on this graph is these two columns. The rest would be flat right down here. So the logarithmic scale is useful for that. So it might not look at first that you're actually a lot further ahead than the average DPS in the league, but because it's a logarithmic scale, even a small gap between the end of the league and the end of yours is a lot. And as you can see here, it's more than double the average DPS. So you can compare max hit, your crit, your average threat, average heal, number of deaths, and the average damage. Right, let me just check my list of things to talk about. Yeah. So I've done the leagues, we've done the systems. So ground league. Now the ground league has only recently been added, so there's not a lot of data in it yet. Probably just last 2 weeks I added it. It's a little bit different because we don't have build types on ground league. So you find it under the system. So we treat the whole of the ground league as one system. And if we change it to ground, you'll see that it changes colors here a little bit. And then everything else is more or less the same. You've got your max DPSs over here. And you see we've only got 22 entries in here, but we haven't been doing it very long, so that will fill up quickly. Then the rest of the stuff is more or less the same. Let's go back to IC. Oh, you'll notice when you're on ground that the build league disappears because there is no build league on ground. It's ground is ground. It would be really nice to have different builds on the ground, but there's a limit to how much work I'm prepared to do. And that is the limit. So I'm going to pull up Zab again because I want to show the next part. To help you plan which build you need to take on which event, I've put in the League Planner. If you click on League Planner, it opens in a pop-up. This is why I was going to choose Zab, because I've almost done everything. Everything that's in yellow means that I've done it. So you can see here the system, trouble, and K means in thousands of DPS. So here, 1,916,000, that's 1.916 million. And carrier, the EPG carrier, CSV, all the different build types. When it's in red, you can see that that build is missing. So I need to do that one, that one, that one, that one. If we bring up Zab, we'll see that he's got a lot more in red. So he knows that he needs to do all those in red to increase his score because he's in third place at the moment. It also tells you at the bottom how many builds you've got missing in that particular system. So for trouble over tear, Zab's got 5 he's got to do. The most he's got to do looks like he's got some 7s. Underneath here, it tells you your current points in the overall DPS league, potential points available to you, and giving a potential score of 16,271. If you look at mine, that's actually a little bit less, 16,035. And that's because I'm not top of every league. Some people have beat me in some of the leagues. If we look, for example, at Infected, we've got Kenobi, he's got EPG and Infected, 822. I'm never going to do that because I just can't fly like Kenobi can. Kenobi's also got 2 million DPS in the official DPS league, but that shows you the difference. He's got 2 million in the official DPS league and 822 when it's not being nannied. Nevertheless, I can't do that sort of damage in EPG. My EPG on ISE is, on this particular map, is much lower. So the League Planner will help you decide which builds. So if somebody says, if one of the CFOps says, oh, we're going to do, let's say we're going to do rescue and search. What you do is you look on rescue and search. Let's say that I'm Zab. I'm you now, Zab. Zab knows that, oh, we're doing rescue and search. I'll get my CSV out, or I'll get my fire at will out, or my drain, or my mix. And even if he hasn't got anything in there at all yet, which he hasn't for these, then any score in here, providing it's above the lowest score in the league. So if we go to rescue and search, lowest score in the league is 0 because there's still 35 places to fill. So he's going to get some points. He's going to get 50 or 60 points. If he can get a good score, then he's going to knock somebody down. So if you got, let's say you got, I don't know, 300k, anyone below that would drop down 1 point. They'd all lose 1 point, and he'd get the 88 points that you get for 300k. So that's the other thing. When you are very high up in the league, like I am now, I'm really trying to get to 16,000. I'll explain that why in a minute. But as the people around me are getting better and better, they're pushing some of my builds down, which lowers my score, even though I'm fighting to get up. So it's a real competition. Okay, that's the build planner. Build matching. You click on that, you'll see this is a extra little bonus that you get. When we're doing the DPS, the MRP runs, let's see if I can find the log for that. Where it is now. I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up over here. Let's just bring this up. Yeah, when we are doing the MRP runs, it really helps the CFOPS officer if they know what the build is that you're running. I don't know why this is so incredibly slow. Let's do it from this one. So build matching. Make sure you can see that. Yep. So build matching is like we've just done a defensive starbase 1, and I always ask people at the end, what is your build type? For this guy here, that's for Shepherd, we don't know what his build type is because he hasn't set it yet, or he might not bother because he's changing builds all the time. So he's not going to get the bonus. So he'll tell us what it is, we'll put it in, and then that is what goes to the DPS League when it's logged. Starbase 1 is not actually logged, as it says here. We don't log that one. I'd love to be able to log it, but the gaps in between the waves are too long, and there's always a load of stragglers at the end, which just destroys your DPS. So we can't use Starbase 1 yet, unless they change it. So build matching, if you've got the right build there, then it lights up green. And that gives you, as we said here, that gives you an extra 100,000 MRP per space event. There is no build matching for ground. Ground is just ground. And the way that you do it is, if you go into the game, go into the fleet, roster. At the end of the roster, you see under members comments. If it's not on members comments, if it's on status, for example, just go to members comments and type your build in there. Like Zab has here, look, he's got fire at will. I've actually got 2 ampersands here, but if you hover over it, see it says SS. This is Cryptic's profanity filter at work. They obviously don't like the word SS, which stands for Schutzstaffel during the Second World War, and Schutzstaffel or SS were the notorious Hitler's bodyguards, and they're seen as profane. But for us, it stands for surgical strikes. So if you want to put SS in there, you can, but it'll just give you some weird characters. It's not always 2 ampersands, it can be anything, any weird character. But it does export correctly, and it does appear correctly in the league. So add your add your build type in there, and your build choices have got to be exact, or it won't match up on the spreadsheet. And you can find what they are here. So exotic particle build, EPG, surgical strikes, SS, and there's the little comment that I just made about the profanity filter thing there. Torpedo boats, torp, EPG carrier is carrier, and dew carrier is I'm not sure if dew carrier is on here. Oh, it is, yeah. Directed energy weapon carrier is DC. Don't put anything else. Don't put torp, yay, I'm a torp killer. Don't put anything like that because it just won't work. It'll automatically ignore it. So that's build matching, gets you a little bit more MRP, and it helps the CFOPS officers who's running the event. Let's see where we got to now. So rules. We're going to build rules. Most of these are pretty straightforward. but there are a few slightly unusual ones. So for SciTorp, let's just bring that in a little bit. SciTorp, your ship must have a commander science buff. It must have at least one torpedo and one mine, and it must use spread, high yield for the torpedo. 10% of your total damage must come from torpedoes, torpedo effects, or mines. That includes the gravimetric rift, which you probably want to use on a SciTorp. Any ship that doesn't meet that criteria will be classed as normal EPG in the DPS League. So this is different to EPG, which can be on any ship and doesn't need to have torpedoes or mines, although they can if they want. So just be careful about your SciTorp build. Mix is a curious one. A mix must use a combination of scatter volley or rapid fire, beam overload or fire at will, spread or high yield. So you could have CRF, BO and spread, or CSV, 4 and high yield, or any combination of those. So your ship needs to feature cannons, beams and torpedoes, and that can be any kind of ship. If the pass doesn't show damage from beams, cannons and torpedoes, it won't be counted as a mix and it'll be expunged. It won't be logged. The rest, I think, are pretty much very straightforward. Beam overload, obviously primary damage in the combat analysis must be from beam overload. And we can check this because when we have, let's just have a look at this Starbase 1 that we just did. If we go into combat analysis reports, we can see, for example, what each player was running. So if I want to see what Joel was running, it's surgical strike, surgical strike. So that's obvious. So even if he doesn't tell us what it is, we know what it's going to be logged as. Some are not quite so obvious, but we can check this on the analysis. So we will know. I think the rest are fairly straightforward with the exception of the carriers. So your normal carrier is what we call an EPG carrier. It's a science ship with 2 hangars and no secondary deflector. The ship must have 2 hangars. So all those ships that only got 1 hangar, they won't count as carriers. Any damage type is allowed. Predominant damage is done by science abilities. And then DEW carrier, directed energy weapon carriers. The ship must have 2 hangars again, and the predominant damage is done by weapons and pets, not science abilities. So if we see that you've got, 90% of your damage is coming from very cold in space and plasma storm and all these kind of things, and you've only got a little tiny bit of damage from your cannons or beams or pets, then we'll class it as a normal carrier. And support ship. A support ship is logged slightly differently. We don't measure the DPS from a support ship. We obviously the most important thing a support ship can do is support the team by taking all the threat and giving out as many heals as possible. If it does damage as well, that's a bonus, but it's not important. And we work out something called the X quotient. So let's bring that up. We look at Support League. So on support, there aren't that many people running support. In fact, only Zab and me have got 2 logged entries. And now it's changed to X quotient here, and not DPS, although it says average DPS, but the graphs are a bit limited, so I'm not changing it just for 1. So X quotient, that is the amount of healing divided by the threat. And this actually gives the same amount of points as you would if you was top of the DPS league here. So you get your 100 points from that. This would be 99 points, this would be 98, 97, 96, and so on. Sadly, hardly anybody runs tanks, which is a shame because we really could do with some more. You also tend to get very high MRP scores running tanks because threat is weighted so heavily in the MRP system. Okay. Let's go back now to trouble over tear and EPG. Now this is something very new that I don't think anybody knows about yet because I've only just put it on. Some people might have seen it and not really knows what it is, although I think it's pretty explanatory, self-explanatory. From now on, all DPS League runs are the logs are saved. So they're saved and they're uploaded to the cloud. Now what you can do is look at this part here. First of all, it tells you if it's got a log. See, well, that's why there's not many logs here because we've only just started doing it literally in the last 2 days. This log is from last year because I happened to keep it because I did really well on that event. I wanted to keep it. But most of them are just from the last 2 days. So here's the log for the year and the mission number. So if you click on the logs or hover over it, you can then open this window here, which will bring up the cloud storage for the logs. So we'll go to that one in 2022. As you can see, there's only 4 logs there. But the one we're interested in is this one here, 22nd of January 2022, mission number 10. That's what it said, 21st January 2022, mission 10. So what you can do then is right click on it and download. And you might get a message saying it can't scan for viruses, or it might just download it. Depends how big the log is. That's now downloaded. I'm not sure if you can see that. Let's just minimize that. No, because my fat head's in the way. But anyway, it's downloaded here. You'll go to your downloads folder, and what you can do then is on your combat log, you can browse your downloads folder, and there's the mission that we've just downloaded. So we can bring that mission up from January last year. And there it is. And there's the big score. And here's the people I was flying with at that time. And of course that allows you then to look at the analysis, which is how I realized how much they'd nerfed neutronic eddies. Because if we go to pets, neutronic eddy, no, wait a minute. Seen it. I'm sure it's more than that. So 499,000. Pretty sure it was more than that. Chronic turbulence. Oh, that's right. You've got to add it all up. If you add it all up, you get 200,000, 250,000, something like that. And now, where each one of these ticks is 23,000, it's now about 1,000, 2,000 at most. So it's really useful to look back at what you were doing. And so, for example, I was wondering, did I fly with entwined tactical matrices? I couldn't remember if I'd had it on or not at the time, but looking down here, it told me that I did because I've got a torp spread, gravimetric photon torpedo spread 2, but I've also down here got gravimetric photon torpedo spread 1. So the only way you can get both is if you've got entwined tactical matrices. So that was really useful for me to find that out. So the idea of the logs being stored is so that if you think, wow, that guy's got a really good result, and that could be on ground or space. For example, let's look at another one. Let's go to the ground one. I think this one is stored. So there's a log here from the 5th of January 2023, where Joel got a really good score there. So if we again go to the logs, go to the year, 5th of 1st, 2023. If you just double click on it, you get that. So it's better just to download it. Back to your combat log and open it up. And we can see what Shepard was using in his build here to get this massive max one hit. Let's have a look at that. Look. So it's going to be from a pet because it's not in that list. And why am I not seeing it? Was it from a pet? Max one hit. Oh, hang on. Would help if I selected the right person, wouldn't it? Yeah, pets. There it is. It's the Bowel Obelisk. So we've had a bit of a laugh about that recently, and now we're all running Bowel Obelisks. So that's quite a handy thing to be able to interrogate the previous logs, and gradually in time you'll see logs will fill up all the way up this side, and you'll be able to look at any of them. Well, in the top 100 anyway. Right, let me look at my program. If you don't have a copy of the combat log reader, then you can actually get it from the website. So let's just go to here. If you go to the MRP page, the root page, you'll see Get SCM Combat Log Parser. And here it'll open up the cloud. This is my cloud. So the reason I've put it here is because you can get it from Spencer's site. However, I wanted to make sure that we never lost it. So I made a copy of it and put it in here. This is the latest version. There's a user guide as well. And there's the external license info. So you can just download it here, and then once it's downloaded, double click it and it will install. So that's where to get the SCM Combat Log Parser. That's an easy place to get it. Right, finally, why do you want to do all this? What's the point in doing it all? Well, it's a personal challenge. It helps you improve your build, which helps your enjoyment of the game. It gets you into the Hall of Fame in the fleet. Even at a very low level, you can get a Hall of Fame entry. So you can see we've got a lot of people in there on 50 points. You get a badge. When you log into the website, you'll be issued a badge. And as you improve and start to get into the higher levels, you actually get some prizes. So when you reach rank 3,200, so we've got 4 people in there at the moment, and more are coming up, you get a master key. 6,400, 5 master keys are awarded. At 9,000, 10 master keys. 11,000, 20. And at 14,000, 50 master keys. Now I've done all those. I'm almost up to Q. So if I can do these, a lot of you guys can do them, because I'm nobody special. I just play the game a lot and probably spend too much money on it. But I'm an old guy. I ain't got the reflexes that some of you younger people have got. You should easily be able to keep up with me and pass me. So there's every opportunity for you to be able to get 10 master keys, 20 master keys. If you get to 16,000, you get a promo ship of your choice. It's very, very difficult to get to 16,000, especially when it means you've got to be the best in every build type on every system to get to that, more or less. Almost every build type, almost every system. But it is possible. I'm almost there. So again, if I can do it, then you guys should be able to do it. But certainly to get to Kirk, it's not awfully difficult. It's not easy, but it's not awfully difficult. And get to Legendary and Master, fairly straightforward. Take a while, but it's worth working for. And all the time, you're improving your build and enjoying the game more. And I think if I just look at the program, I've gone through everything here. Store command. So now we're on to the last part. If anybody's got any questions about any of that, now is the time to ask. I know that we've got 4 people listening on Discord. So if any of you guys got any questions, otherwise I will wrap it up. No questions. Okay. Well, you can always ask later in the comments below or in the Discord. Okay, so that's all for now. I hope that was useful to anyone that's taking part in the SRS DPS League. There'll be another live stream probably next week on some other topic. I've got some ideas, which will probably be a bit more applicable to everybody. I think you'll find it interesting. So until then, that's me signing out. Bye for now.